Hello and welcome to our Know Your Rights workshop. My name is Maria Hall. I'm a lawyer and the director of the Los Angeles Incubator Consortium, a community of lawyers, legal services organizations, and law schools whose mission is to bridge the justice gap. Our presentation today is about unemployment assistance. Our guest speaker is Pinky Ghuman, who is recognized as a rising star attorney, a distinction provided to only 2.5% of attorneys in Southern California by super lawyers. Her practice focuses on helping workers facing financial stress resulting from wrongful termination and violation of workplace rights by seeking relief so her clients can focus on attaining their dream careers. Thank you for being here, Pinky.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully, sorry, this is information about my practice. But before we dive into the discussion, I want to point out that this is informational only and is not intended to be substitute for legal advice and representation. If you have questions, you should definitely seek out, an attorney, in particular, somebody who handles benefits issues or an employment attorney. And please be aware, because of the current climate and pandemic, and these laws are constantly changing. And so this material may not be relevant at a later point. So to start off with, first, unemployment benefits are provided to those workers who have been terminated, not of their own free will, and they've invested a certain amount through deductions into the program. So the benefits that typically are provided are 60% of wages earned up to a maximum of $450 a week, which is taxable. But under the new Federal CARES Act, individuals receiving unemployment benefits are going to be receiving their maximum, which may be $450 plus the $600 each week. So, and the CARES Act also has extended what is typically the 26-week period of receiving unemployment benefits to 39 weeks. So they're extending the length of time that you're going to be receiving unemployment benefits during this pandemic period and due to the COVID-19 virus. And also the law points out that the new law temporarily is going to apply these payments retroactively, meaning going back. So let's say you're, terminated on the 1st and you apply on the 15th, you'll be receiving payments for your unemployment starting the 1st. And this goes back until January 27th, 2020. Sorry. So, really quickly. Okay, so diving into what are the 5 most important things you should know when filing for unemployment. First, for anyone that hasn't gone through this process before, you need to make sure you are keeping track of your attempts to find employment, because you can only qualify for unemployment benefits when you are available, ready, and looking for work and capable of performing their work. So you basically need to show that you are trying, making an effort, and have emails from Indeed, LinkedIn, wherever you apply, showing that you applied, have received interviews, and making a good faith effort. However, this typical requirement is waived for those that already know that they're temporarily employed. For example, workers in the retail industry, some have been told that they have a job when the stay-at-home order is lifted. These individuals don't have this additional requirement to um, show that they're actively seeking employment. So the second important thing to know when you're filing for unemployment benefits is how much are you actually going to be receiving and for how long. So we went over this in the previous slide. I won't repeat that, but you can essentially calculate your wages in the past 4 quarters, the past 12 months. So it could be April 1st to April 1st, prior to filing for the benefits. And then the EDD website, if you go on there, they have a calculator and a chart that kind of helps you figure out what you'll be earning on, if you choose to seek unemployment benefits. So some individuals are questioning how long this pandemic can go, wondering how to, your financial health. I do want to, bring to light that we've seen this type of situation happen before. In the previous recession, the federal government stepped in and offered assistance extensions of unemployment benefits for 4 different times. So there's a possibility that they may step in again and extend it for a longer period of time. That's a possibility, but they are keeping track of the nation's reserves and capital to see if the federal government is even, in the position to provide this assistance. So a third important point is that what's unique right now is individuals who are self-employed can receive unemployment benefits and also disability leave, which will be addressed in a later slide. But this is a common question: who is self-employed? Self-employed is an individual whose primary source of income is through their own business and their own trade. So it includes independent contractors as well. So a self-employed individual could be a gig worker, for example, working for Uber or one of the apps, which we'll go into a little bit more. So the CARES Act provides an additional, beyond the unemployment insurance, the state provides the pandemic unemployment assistance, provides self-employed individuals up to 39 weeks, just like regular employees, of lost income between the period of January 27th and end of the year, December 31st, 2020. And you will, also be receiving, you'll also qualify for the additional $600 that regular employees receive through the National Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program. And this is for unemployment period between March 27th through July 31st, 2020, which is a smaller window of time than regular employees. So going on to number 4. This is a common question people have been wondering, is when they should expect to receive their first payment. Usually it'll take 2 to 3 weeks But right now, due to the very abnormal number of filings, um, it's going to take a bit longer. At least that's what is expected. So you should just try to be patient, hang in there. Um, they are processing the operations at even a higher rate, bringing in people who have been retired, and giving people overtime. And so EDD is actively engaged in implementing these, this new program, um, and trying to issue out initial checks as soon as possible. But it may take a few weeks. One of the positives is that usually EDD takes a while because they have to verify wages with the employer before sending out EDD benefits, unemployment insurance. But the governor has suspended the first week of waiting period that the EDD typically uses to find out verified wages. So that's a positive. It shortens the time that you will, have to wait. But EDD may require you to pay back if you incorrectly state your income. So that's something to just be aware of. The fifth thing to know for unemployment benefits is that what we just talked about, EDD is having people work overtime, redirecting staff to make sure they're addressing this. These changes are coming really fast and very suddenly without a lot of direction. So that may be causing some delay, but they are processing. So let's talk about a group of workers, app-based workers that use Uber, that work for Uber, Lyft, Postmates, any of these gig-based application workers. They're typically treated as independent contractors. However, due to a new law that became effective January 1st, 2020, many of these workers are now considered employees rather than independent contractors, which enables them to receive unemployment insurance benefits. Typically, in the past, they weren't allowed to receive these benefits. So going on to the next, work sharing program. Employees can apply for unemployment insurance work sharing program if their hours have been cut, or services at their place of employment have basically been reduced, or anything at their work site that's caused a change, such as layoffs. The requirement to apply for the work sharing program is that your employer has to first apply into the program and be part of the program for its employees to receive work sharing benefits. And so an example of this would be somebody who was working 40 hours a week due to, business. Now they're working 30 hours a week. So the difference for those 10 hours would be compensated through this program. So workers that lost those 10 hours of pay would receive those 10 hours of pay through this program. So some restrictions that you should be aware of, people that work at staffing company or temporary workers like seasonal workers cannot participate in the program. Corporate board members, stockholders cannot participate in this program, and an employer can't use it as a way to transition into laying off workers. Um, so if you have any questions, contact the EDD Special Claims Office, and the number is provided there. So check that. So going into the pandemic unemployment assistance program, I know the names are really similar. So, but you can always refer back to these slides to look at which program you fall under. So looking at the PUA, as I call it, individuals who do not qualify for unemployment benefits or extended leave can receive unemployment benefits. And this is, again, as we stated, self-employed and people that have their hours have been reduced to part-time, for example, or don't qualify for another reason. To be eligible under this program, the individual has to show that they can work, are ready and able under California law, and they're unemployed, even partially unemployed, and they're one really important requirement is that they have to be unemployed because of the COVID-19 virus. So, it applies to those that are under quarantine. One, there also applies to those caring for someone who is sick or quarantined, someone who's cannot reach their job for whatever reason due to COVID-19, or those who are caring for a child because the school is closed due to the virus. The assistance is not payable to those, however, that can telework with pay unless they're working less than before. So there has to be a reduction. And this assistance is one of the assistance that provides $600 a week in addition to your maximum under regular state unemployment benefits. Okay, so a couple of programs I just want to point out really briefly. The first is the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program. It allows individuals who have exhausted through all their regular unemployment benefits to receive an additional 13 weeks of benefits up until the end of the year, December 31st. Again, you have to be, ready, able to work to receive these unemployment benefits. But it provides some sort of support for those that have already used unemployment benefits and are in this situation because of the COVID-19 virus. And then if you exhaust the 13 weeks of these benefits, you can continue to receive benefits under PUA, which was addressed in the previous slide, for a period of up to 39 weeks. It may be shorter, but the maximum is 39 weeks currently. And then another program is the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, and they are individuals who are collecting unemployment benefits, including their regular unemployment benefit, the state maximum of $450 per week, to basically receive the additional $600 up until July 31st, 2020. And this amount is taxable. Individuals that you would consider that fall under this program are self-employed individuals. So those that don't fall and qualify for some of the other pandemic unemployment, just look into the compensation program. And then all these, even though they're federal programs, they're all being implemented through the state's EDD. So please, you know, look, process your claims through the state. I wouldn't want anybody, spending their time on the federal IRS website or anything, and finding out later that they wasted a week. It's actually EDD that's processing this. Um, the site may be crashing because there's a high volume right now, but stay patient, refresh the page, and remember that these benefits are retroactive, so you'll be receiving what you are entitled to. So going on, we have the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. This was put into place in mid-March. It runs through December 31st into the year 2020, and requires that employers, certain employers, provide their employees with paid sick leave, medical leave, or expanded family leave for specified reasons that we'll get into, that are related to COVID-19. Employees, we'll go a little bit more into detail, but employees must have worked at that work site for 2 weeks to receive the paid sick time, and at least 30 days to be eligible to receive the additional 10 weeks of paid family leave. And I'll go into that in the next slide. But this law is directed at employees that are working at work for companies with 500 or less employees. And there's a couple of exceptions you should be concerned about. So even if you're working, at for an employer with 500 or less employees, some government employees are not entitled to these benefits. You should run your particular situation by an employment attorney or somebody who's represents clients on this matter, but they're normally not covered under this act. And then if you're working for a very small business with 50 employees or less, you may not qualify for the program because the business is exempt. But that's a case by case basis. So what are the reasons that would qualify you to receive paid sick time or paid family time under this act? First is you must be subject to quarantine or isolation related to COVID-19. The second possible reason, qualifier, is you've been advised by a healthcare professional to self-quarantine because of COVID-19. The third way you qualify is that you've experienced COVID-19 virus symptoms and are seeking medical diagnosis. Fourth possible scenario where you would qualify for these benefits is if you're caring for an individual who has either been is subject to quarantine or isolation, or been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine. Fifth possible way you're eligible is you're caring for a child. There are a lot of parents out there that have to stay at home now because their child's school is closed due to COVID-19. And then there's a few other scenarios detailed out. Um, and that would be the sixth reason that you qualify for these benefits is if the Secretary of Health and Human Services um, announces it. So that's something that you would have to keep track of and pay attention to. So one thing that you can kind of notice is almost every single one of the reasons, qualifying reasons for leave is related to COVID-19. So if you are, caring for a sick one, or seeking medical diagnosis, but it's not related to COVID-19, then you would not be entitled to paid family leave or paid sick leave through Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So the first 10 days of this leave are unpaid. But you do have the option if you have vacation or sick time, available, you can use that during the first 10 days of unpaid leave. For any, if you're taking care of somebody that's in self-isolation or yourself are in self-isolation, then you are eligible for up to 80 hours of sick leave. And a part-time employee is eligible for the number of hours that they've, worked on an average of a 2-week period prior. However, the benefits, if you're taking care of a child during this period, is those employees are eligible for 12 weeks of family leave. So the first 2 weeks would be paid sick leave, and then they would receive 10 weeks additional of paid family leave at 40 hours a week. So that would be the maximum. And then also to point out, part-time employees are eligible for this too, if they are kept home taking care of a child. So I'm just going to leave this up really quickly. This is how you calculate how much you're entitled to receive based on what basis you're receiving these benefits under. So individuals staying at home with their kids are entitled to receive 2/3 of their regular rate of pay, or 2/3 of the their minimum wage, up to $200 per day, and then up to $12,000 in total over the 12-week period. So that's an example. So the exception is for this, that no leave is required to be given in the following situations. If your employer is closed, they're full on shut down before or after April 1st, those employees are not entitled to paid family leave. If the employer furloughs employees or reduces them due to lack of work, there's just no business coming in due to COVID-19, they're not entitled to these benefits. If you are in one of these situations, you should be filing for the pandemic unemployment benefits rather than under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. That would be your avenue to receive benefits. But again, be careful because state and local requirements differ. So that might be you may not qualify if you don't meet the state and local benefits requirements. Um, One of the nice things about this act is that an employer cannot um, take an adverse action like discharge, discipline, otherwise, discriminate against you if you're taking paid sick leave under this act. And if you are retaliated, for example, terminated for requesting sick leave, you can file a complaint and receive protections under this act for losing your job, for example. So this is very recent. For those of you who do not live in Los Angeles or work in Los Angeles, this does not apply to you, but the city of Los Angeles came out and announced that they passed this order requiring employers to pay supplemental sick leave. And we're going to go into some of the details. It's basically, one of the first requirements, you have to have had worked for this employer from February 3rd of this year through March 4th to receive supplemental paid sick leave. And then you must have, the employee must perform any work within the city for the employer. And the employer must either be 50 or more employees within the city of LA, or have 2,000 or more employees within the United States. So small businesses would not apply. Employees, of small businesses would not receive this benefit. And this became effective April 7th. And individuals would be entitled to receive 80 hours or 2 weeks of paid sick leave under the Supplemental Paid Sick Leave Act. And then next, so a few requirements for, or a few qualifiers that enable you to take or receive supplemental paid sick leave is first, the first way is if you are taking time off due to COVID-19 virus, or are a public health official, a healthcare provider is telling you to self-isolate. So that is one way you'd qualify. Another is that you're taking time off because you're over the age of 65 and or your health condition such as autoimmune disorder has caused you to have a weaker immune system and you're a higher risk person. Another reason you would qualify is if you're taking time off to care for a family member who's, as I stated above, told to self-isolate or have, need or required to take time off because of the infection. So the fourth way to qualify is if you're taking care of a child, family member, and the child is under the age of 18. And the final is note to remember is that the employer cannot require a doctor's note from you or other documentation for the supplemental sick leave. Providing oral or written request is sufficient enough for you to receive supplemental paid sick leave as long as the other requirements are met. So I'm going to not go into the numbers. You can review them for yourself, but the employer is responsible for paying the sick leave. It's not the state. So it's not, you don't have to go through the EDD process to receive the city's supplemental sick leave. And you're limited to $511 per day, and at most can receive $5,110. One of the great things about this new law for the city of LA is that if your employer violates this law, they are subject to liability. These are some of the things that an employee would be able to recover. And if they're retaliated, which was explained earlier, like discharged, terminated, fired, they are entitled to bring a lawsuit against their employer for violating their right. So another benefit out there, assistance, is disability insurance. So disability insurance has existed and is processed through EDD also, and is typically provided to those who become ill, injured, and unable to work. And but now this has been expanded to those who are exposed to COVID-19. But under disability insurance, you do have to provide a doctor's note, something verifying that you actually are taking time off due to COVID-19. And then see, some of these are the qualifications, the doctor's note, and this has been raised, the question, citizenship and immigration status does not affect who is eligible to receive disability insurance. So what disability insurance is, it provides short-term benefit payments to eligible workers who have full or partial losses of wages due to non-work related illness, injury, or pregnancy. And damages are, the benefits that you receive are about 60 to 70% of your wages, depending on your income. And they range from $50 to $1,300. And the EDD website actually has a calculator to help you figure out how much you would receive. The nice thing right now is that even though self-employed individuals could before receive disability insurance, they had to pay into the elective program. However, under the current situation, self-employed individuals, including independent contractors, can receive disability insurance. So going on to paid family leave. It's, as I've mentioned, it's administered through EDD. So California, the state of California is handling those claims, so apply with them. It's available to those who are caring for an individual with an illness or themselves. Unable to work due to COVID-19. Typically, paid family leave provides 6 weeks of benefits to workers who have lost part of their job or been reduced to part-time, because they have to take care of a family member who is ill. And um, effective July 1st, however, the paid family leave is going to be extended from 6 weeks to 8 weeks. So we are seeing a little bit more an extension, longer period of time, 8 weeks for paid family leave, which is a change. Um, I'll let individuals read the calculations, but um, you can go onto the EDD website and apply there. They have tutorials. Um, so make sure to check those out if you want explanation of the application process. So a few of the questions that come up is, can an employer require a worker who is quarantined to exhaust paid sick leave? So the answer is that the employer cannot require a worker to use paid sick leave. That's a worker's choice. So if you're being forced into this, I would, first attempt to talk to the employer, maybe inform them of this law. Hopefully that will change your situation. Or worst case scenario, you may have to seek an advice of an employment attorney in that situation. Next question comes up is, can an employer require a worker to provide information about recent travel to countries considered to be high risk for exposure? And the employer can basically require that you provide information if you travel to any high risk country, or if they're planning to. And those countries have changed. So you would need to go to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to find out which countries those are. However, an important thing, employer cannot go into an employee's medical privacy, meaning details of what their status is just because they traveled to a country. If you're showing symptoms or you've told them yourself, they can ask for documentation. However, just for the mere fact that you travel to one of the high risk countries is not a basis for an employer to target you to demand your medical information. Going on, another question that we commonly have been getting is, what options do I have if my child's school or daycare closes related to COVID-19? We went over many of these. This is just additional information. Employees should discuss their options with their employers, figure out, if there's work from home and flexible hours they can work. There's paid sick leave, and there's other benefits available to these employees. And under California paid sick leave, the employees have to work somewhere with 25 or more employees, and to be entitled to 40 hours of leave if you're taking care of a child due to the child's daycare or school closure. And so I don't know if there's any questions. I'll open it up to Maria.
Thanks, Pinky. That was great. Really, really informative. So I had just a couple of questions. Number one, if you're if you're working from home, but you have less hours, can you also are you eligible to apply for the pandemic unemployment assistance?
Yes. So even if you're teleworking, and you still qualify, because the ultimate basis is that your hours are cut. You are now a part-time employee rather than a full-time employee. So even part-time employees are entitled to um, unemployment benefits and in many cases paid sick leave.
Great, thank you. And then if you're already receiving unemployment benefits, are you still eligible to receive the $600 through the federal pandemic unemployment assistance program?
So if you're receiving unemployment benefits already, um, you likely cannot, because in order to receive the additional 600, the reason for your unemployment has to be it's related to COVID-19.
Okay.
Is that
So if, yeah, so that would be the question. If you're on the unemployment due to COVID-19 or not, would be the question then. Is that right?
yeah? So
Okay.
it depends if you're unemployed due to COVID-19,
Right.
or is it another reason?
Okay, that makes sense. So if you qualify for just a small amount of unemployment benefits through EDD, can you still receive a $600 benefit through the federal pandemic unemployment assistance?
Yes, you can still receive 600. It's every individual is going to be, you know, entitled to a different amount, but everyone is for their regular unemployment benefits, but everyone is entitled to that 600 if, pandemic unemployment benefits.
That's great. Thank you. Well, that was all the questions that I had. So thank you so much. I learned so much, and I know everyone else will too. So
Yeah, I hope it's
thank you.
helpful, and people can receive assistance quickly, and we'll you know keep just keep up with the news to find out changing laws.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.